All right. I just want to say good day, everyone, and welcome to GSA Acquisition Policy Federal Advisory Committee, the Industry Partnerships Subcommittee meeting. I'm Stephanie Hartson. I'm the Deputy Designated Federal Officer. And today's event is being recorded and will be posted to our website with all relevant meeting materials. There will be time for any relevant comments or statements towards the end of the meeting from the public. And I would like to briefly introduce also our designated federal officer, Boris Sarathian. Boris, any comments or statements?
Just unmute myself. Yeah, hello everybody. So welcome back, and Stephanie leading things today. I will need to drop out an hour early today for another commitment, but glad to be back with you all in this home stretch. I like to think of it as a home stretch here. So back to you, Stephanie.
Okay, so in order to open this meeting, we'll now just briefly mention those individuals that are here right now. So we have Farad Ali.
Present.
We have Kristen.
Present.
We have Nigel.
Present.
And we have Keith.
Here.
All right, if I'm missing anyone at this time, I'll make sure to come back around with roll call. Right now, I'll definitely open up this floor and direct any further conversation to the chairs.
Great. Thank you and good afternoon, everybody. So for our meeting today, we have a pretty much of a working agenda. So we'll go over a couple of administrative things for the calendar, and then we're going to jump into the work we're doing on our recommendation that we're teeing up for May 22nd. On that note, so we are gearing up for that meeting, and so we'll have to finish up our recommendation probably by the end of next week. I may not have the official timeline in front of me, but that's where we got to get it done, and then we can work on the deck and plan how we want to present out on the 22nd. Just as a reminder, the 22nd is a virtual meeting, so hopefully everybody has had the opportunity to RSVP for that session. Any questions on that before we jump in? And if not, I'll turn it over to Farad for any opening comments.
No, I'm with you. Thank you, Kristen. It's perfect. Let's go. We got work to do.
Okie dokie. So I sent out a lengthy email. I keep trying to say they won't be long, but they're long. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Let's see if I can do this. See if I have skills here. So give me 1 second. Stephanie, I'm not as fast as you. How about that big green arrow? Yeah. Okay, there we go. Excellent. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Should we make it bigger?
Yes.
Okay. How can I make this bigger? I don't know how to make it bigger. Can't find my Zoom.
Do you see it under right there below the tools?
Yeah.
Kristen?
Yeah.
Right there,
Right
100.
here.
So click
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yep. There you go.
Oh, yeah. Okay, how's that?
Perfect.
Okay. So for the email we sent out late last week, we're going to work today on kind of refining our recommendations. And not that we're going to go through all this today, but I sent you guys the notes and also the Jamboard and also the excerpt to the session we had where we had some GSA stakeholders on, including folks from Mass and FAS and Fleet Services. And there was a lot of good nuggets that we want to kind of leverage in our recommendation. And I've created a matrix that we'll go through today, but just to kind of refresh everybody's memory, we're fine-tuning our recommendation around really for GSA to maybe assess the full life cycle of a new entrant and identify opportunities to streamline or centralize core aspects of that offering with some specific recommendations from us from what we've learned. And I'll bring up the matrix so we can take a look at that. What I'd like to do today is try and refine a couple of key bullets for each segment. And if you remember, we talked about the life cycle being this phases of identifying How does GSA go out and identify potential new entrants? How do potential new entrants self-identify up to GSA to participate in the federal marketplace? And then once identification happens, this whole concept around how can engagement be more effective, easier, a better experience for these entrants. And then we'll focus on the onboarding. So actually going from, yeah, I want to work with the government to actually getting through all the requirements and getting on contract and doing actual business. And then what is that pathway for growth? So I hope you all had a chance to read through some of that. So what I did, I thought for today is I put this in a matrix form, and I thought we could just walk through and kind of make sure we're hitting the high points here. And so for each phase, you know, we basically talked to a lot of people and we identified a lot of things happening across GSA and the government. We also identified some weaknesses or areas of improvement. We also started to formulate some recommendations, and we also identified some areas where, geez, some of our findings point back to recommendations we already made. And then lastly, you know, threat, meaning like, what if this kind of opportunity is not addressed? What's the downside and or upside of that? So I thought today we could spend some time walking through each of these and kind of making sure we've captured the key kind of essences, not the whole body of work, but the key points that we kind of picked up. So, and I think the best way to start is to just go through, we can either go vertically or we can go horizontally. So if we went horizontally, we would go across strengths and identify, engage, onboard, and provide pathway. Might be easier to go vertically, where we say, what did we identify for identifying, and then where are some weaknesses, and then opportunity is really the recommendations we're making. And I think one of the things, before we get into this, I think we realize we aren't going to solve this problem. It's like world hunger, but to take a life cycle approach and to kind of assess strengths and weaknesses is probably something we would recommend for GSA to do through the lens of an innovative new entrant. Where are there opportunities to strengthen this life cycle and the experience for these folks? So let me pause there. That's a lot. And see what kind of comments. Is this A, does it make sense? And B, can we, or any other comments here? Let me just open up the floor for that before we get into a work.
Yeah, I think this makes sense because it gives us something that's clear, to the point, and actually works. We have learned from Troy that this also works with the other groups, right? Some of their recommendations. So I'm hoping we can have some good engagement with the group of people we have here to kind of fill in this so that we can all speak to it. And again, provide recommendations for GSA and move it forward.
Okay, great. Thanks, Farad. All right, so one of the things I would recommend, any other comments? So one of the things I'd recommend, as Boris mentioned, is you have the, you know, the file I sent you has a lot of kind of our gleamings. You have a PDF of our entire Jamboard, and I think it was slide 3 is a lot of the essence that you guys captured. I think I must have left that meeting early when that happened, but there's essence on there. And so what I want to do is just kind of pick and pull from those things and put them into the matrix. So, so with that, we can go ahead and get started. So when we talk about identifying, and I think we'll just go right through it, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So basically, what did some of the things that we identified that was good that was going on? So for example, I went back through the notes, and you know, when Len and his team was talking about how they go to market at trade shows and how they choose to engage with certain academic institutions, you know, I think that was a strength that I heard that I wasn't really aware of. And I'm sure that, and we know that there's other efforts going on through SBA and other identification kind of things. So any thoughts here? Any?
Yeah, I would say for the strength, I think there's an awareness that the business units, I mean, I'm trying to think of language that could be easy to understand, but there's an awareness that there is a need to identify different businesses. And so and from that awareness, the business units are engaging to trade shows and all that other in the academic institutions. So having that awareness is a big deal, because then you could point to some activity that needs to happen. And I think that's what you've done here when you say the business units engage in selected trade shows, because someone's helping them to be aware that this is what needs to happen.
Okay, good. I like that. Because I got the same sense. It's not the why. The why is not lacking, like across GSA, from what our discovery, we need to do this. It's kind of the how to do it most effectively is really where some of the challenge is.
Kristen,
Any other thoughts?
if I could add something, this is a place where I would suggest highlighting fleet, because they're knocking out of the park on electrifying the fleet. And that's a suggestion that perhaps this is a place to highlight something that's working well for the rest of the agency to see, given it more visibility. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, great. I'm gonna type away. And this is what I was thinking, Boris, was like part of this recommendation would be around for GSA is to, hey, use this framework and conduct this level of assessment to identify where there's gaps in this process or there's lack of connection. We've identified a few, but just we weren't able to really take a deep dive on this. And I think we have a few good learnings, and we can maybe highlight those, but then we just write the report right out of this. So I like the idea of referencing fleet. And what was interesting is the practice, it is a best practice, but it's domain specific, but the elements of the practice could be applied across the other business units. Does that make, like identifying appropriate academic institutions that are well known for that domain, selecting the trade shows, so anyway, okay. So that was part of identifying, and we don't have to like bury the ship here. We can just kind of go through this. What did we hear about?
Can we add one more strength?
Sure, let's go.
Can I add one more strength?
Yes.
So that I don't know if it's a strength that we are currently utilizing, but the existence of outreach efforts like the Community Navigator program can help enhance it. So the idea that I think this goes along with the why is not the problem, it's the how. But because we have the leadership from OMB, we've seen OMB memos on increasing small business participation in federal contracting. So that's great. It's the how we get to that. And then I think highlighting the fact that we have examples of existing programs through SBA or Commerce or through other agencies that are trying to perform that outreach. So that's a strength. I think that we have a blueprint that we can use. The question is, how do we then leverage those existing programs?
Yeah, so the weakness might be, and let me just go down here.
Interagency coordination.
Yeah, there's a lack of, I kept coming up with the word disparate and disconnected. There's many efforts, but in some cases they're disparate and disconnected, so their potency is kind of diminished.
I like that.
Okay, now many efforts.
Is it the sum is worth more than the whole is worth more than the sum of its parts?
Yeah, I'm just making this connected.
And so Nigel, that's great. Can I just, the way I I use one words because that way I can remember. I think the weakness is the connectedness.
Yep.
I mean, it's exactly what Nigel said in definition, but it's just the weakness is that it's a lack of connectedness.
I think there's also, I think we heard some of the folks saying there's a lack of, and it's not, again, it's not because of intent, but there's a general lack of
Yeah.
the what we would call the common operating picture of all the efforts that are going on and how they should be fully leveraged to drive the outcomes.
Yeah, you put strength of connectedness. I'm like, there's a lack of connectedness.
I was just seeing if you were awake.
Yeah, I'm looking right at it. Yep.
Okay. And
Hey-
so,
Hey, Kristen,
yes,
one quick comment on the strengths. I would add SBIR under SBA because that is a program that GSA told us they're using, the SBIR, which is a small business innovation something. It's like a seed fund. So I would just add the acronym SBIR after SBA.
do you think that goes under identify or not to be, or is that when we start to engage?
I think it could go both. I think it hits both of those. But you could put on engage, but I just wanted to capture that one. So I think that's an important one. We heard it from GSA's Osgood.
Yeah, no, and again, I haven't
Yeah,
had
yeah.
a chance to go through the notes exhaustively. If you guys can help with that, like, or Nigel, Farad, I need people to go through those notes and pull out the kind of the key essences. There's a lot of examples in there.
Yeah. No, back to you. You're on a good path. I just want.
Yeah, no, and I think one of the things, okay, so, and we'll smooth this out as we go. Okay, so the main weakness is kind of the lack of coordination and connectedness of the efforts. And so, for example, I think Fleet talked about, we go to these conferences, but we don't always know how to direct the small businesses. We do the best we can within our domain, but having that kind of common go-to-market collateral type of so Fleet is there, but they're not necessarily some of the go-to-market and how GSA wants to engage with these companies is kind of more specialized in like the outreach efforts. And so having either somebody there with them or having that kind of toolkit that's standard and universal that can be brought to these things is one of the things I heard. Okay, so let's talk about the other thing I heard for identify and we heard this is kind of a carryover from others, is so, when GSA is going out or Fleet, that's very targeted, that's domain specific, but there's also the reverse marketing. There could be a broader, stronger, demand signal, that reverse marketing going out to identify and let the entrants come to the government. And that ties to kind of the lighthouse recommendation we already made. So one of the things I'm trying to do here is I think we can weave this such that, hey, this has become like a fill in the blanks kind of exercise, right? And then GSA can prioritize and pick where they really want to focus. So, and I think like our strongest column is this onboarding. Like, I think that's where like centralized onboarding was really talked about, but we'll get over to that. And one of the other things that kind of came up was this universal, simple set of evaluations for companies. I don't know if it was, some people called it like an assessment or an validation, where, do you understand what is required to work with the government? Do you have products and services that are relevant to the government? So people can, how much it might cost to be FedRAMP or to meet certain environmental requirements. So I don't know if that's in engage, identify, or engage, but it's somewhere in the middle of those two, right? Where they say, yeah, I do, yes, I can, I do, I have the will and I want to do it. So now what do I do? So that's part of this kind of self-assessment thing, which I think would be kind of in identify.
Yeah, I think it hits both again. That, remember the waiting room idea?
Yeah,
Like the hospital waiting room where you go and do the forms before your first appointment.
yeah, the
Kind of thing.
queuing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do they call that? Triaging?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, yeah. I didn't spell it right. Okay. What about any other opportunities or recommendations around identifying how to go out and market and how to go out and find these companies?
Is there a way to set up a, again, this goes back to the interagency, a process, because a lot of this stuff is like technical assistance the SBA does that other departments do. Are there ways of setting up as a part of a EPA, Department of Energy, Department of Transportation onboarding process, a introduction that includes the entities that provide that type of technical assistance? So you're bringing an SBA to the table as a given when you are onboarding these companies. You're bringing a Department of Transportation, Department of Commerce. Who are the right people to bring to that table as a part of any onboarding of a cohort into your network?
Yeah, I like what Stephanie put down, the coordinations with associations of procurement technical assistance centers.
Okay, can you grab that?
I would add,
Rod, and
I
put
would
it in
add
the
all of
document?
the,
Oh, hold on, guys, hold on.
sorry.
I don't want to lose that point, guys, but I can't do, somebody can grab that and put it in there. Nigel, back to you. I'm just wondering if that is really on identify and I'm splitting hairs here, or really would that be a little further up the cycle when we start to engage? Connecting, that's kind of, I pulled this out of the notes, like establish and engage some sort of matching process of needs to resources, whether it be, to your point, grants, technical assistance, so if you think about it, like we talked about, there's capital. So if you think about grants, which is money, technical assistance, as you're talking about, like I assume like something like you got to be FedRAMP certified, or you have to be able to disclose your carbon greenhouse gas. Is that what you're kind of thinking of here? Or are you thinking
Yeah,
more
who's going to
contract?
explain that to you? I'm thinking, who's going to explain that to you?
Correct.
Who's going to walk you through the process and all of that, right? So I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to figure out how we leverage what's already there and letting somebody at, you know, the office at the Department of Energy that's now responsible for carbon reduction, carbon emission at airports, right? They have a very, very specific targeted charter. When they are bringing companies in and they ask the question that you said before, which is, yes, I'm ready to participate with the federal government. How? What do I need to do?
Yeah.
That office should not be responsible for answering that question. They should have, like you said, the toolkit to point them to the right folks. But then also, in addition to the PTACs that we just listed, I would throw in any of the SBA or federal government partner entities like small business development centers, women's business centers, minority business development centers, and so forth. Anyone who gets federal funds should be used as a part of this resource kit to be able to direct these companies in the right way, because they've got regional reach on the ground
Yeah.
that, you know, headquarters doesn't have.
Yeah, that's great. I like that term, resource kit. And I mean, so what we think, so we're not asking GSA to do that, provide those expertise, but they could help create and provide the resource kit. Would that be kind of, so it's not.
GSA is the facilitator,
Right.
right? There are other experts that do those specific things. GSA should not have to do that. GSA is the convener and the facilitator of that toolkit.
Hey, Nigel, you know, it's interesting. I've ran centers, women's business centers and SBTDC, all those things. And we have onboarding. And then also in the the NOFA, the notification for financial assistance, they could make that a requirement.
I like it.
Say it again.
You can actually make that a requirement in the process to improve the outcomes and utilization. They do it for that would be powerful.
Make what a requirement, I'm sorry.
Partnering as a resource kit, like using that regional outreach. Exactly everything he said, right? I'm really just going across what he's saying. So he's saying you need to have these resources for grants for technical assistance providers. Well, you can put that in their NOFA to do this work.
What was the acronym you used?
NOFA, notice, what is it? Isn't that notice something for financial assistance? What is it called, government people?
I don't know, but I guess, guys, so I'm going to pull on this thread because I think this was one of the key findings, but I think we need to be specific in what we're actually recommending here. So there's all these different agencies, organizations, regional. I love that point, Nigel, for resiliency. So it's identifying and kind of connecting them into a resource kit, right, for these innovative entrants. But somebody would have to do that. Like, who are these agencies? Who are these organizations? What do they do? And create a resource kit. And I guess, is that what we're asking GSA to do? So it points them to those.
So Kristen, can I just make a point? I just wanted to mention that there are certain offices like PTech or APTech that offers those type of services, right? So, but it's a DoD sponsored a program, but their responsibility is to pretty much support new incoming vendors. They will actually go to the agencies and actually go to the department or the contracting officer to assist that small business owner in the process of contracting. So that is there. So maybe the ask would be pretty much to get GSA to ensure that this is happening for new and incoming. And then pivoting a little bit to what Farad was saying, and please let me know if I'm off, but maybe having that as a bullet in your proposal or solicitation, that you went as a new vendor, that you made contact with one of these offices in order to ensure that you have a proper proposal before you go forward. And maybe that would be helpful for both the contracting officer, the new onboardee, to basically have an understanding of the fact that this is a new potential vendor in this space, but that they are seeking help externally as well as internally, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think what I'm struggling with is what I heard was there is all these different channels for all these potential entrants to tap into. And and there's so many, I think somebody used the term, there's 50 entry points. If you get in the wrong entry point, you can get so far down, like it's getting on like a contract, getting on a schedule, and then you get on the schedule. So versus the sense I got from some of the discussions was who and how should be shepherding these entrants throughout their life cycle is and I think, again, I think it's a problem of lots of resources and many channels. And I don't.
So does that go back to a vendor relations management office that they should put together?
Yeah.
In order to make sure that depending on whatever the contract vehicle is, they will have a point of contact. And then that vendor relations management office would do similar tasks as a PTech, but within GSA.
Yeah, I think we want this to focus on GSA, right? What can GSA do?
Yep. No, I agree, Stephan. I think you're spot on that. And I added something on the chat that's it's a related topic, but not the same.
As a
And I
killing me on the
think-
chat.
Yeah, and can you share the link to this document, Kristen, on the chat?
We'll certainly can.
But my idea was, yeah, I think this applies. This is more of an overarching idea for all four life cycle phases here. Is maybe a coordination group within GSA, and that may already exist, but really putting some things on their agenda, like what we're talking about here, where they can share best practices, ideas among the different programs. Because, like, you know, fleet. So I've been at GSA for a long time, and hearing their story, I was just blown away by how out of the box they've been thinking about bringing new entrants. And maybe there is such a group, but this is more of an overarching idea. But I really like Stephanie's idea of, you know, this vendor relationship management type of a construct that could possibly help. And it may be leveraging what's already there. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So let's go back to the chat and make sure we're capturing all this. All right, I don't, because we're gonna run out of time, you know what I'm saying? All right, so Boris, I see your comments in there. I guess I can't copy out of the chat. Are we able to like get the chat afterwards?
We should, Skylar, just confirm them with you. I think we're able to do that, correct?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we can download it into a document?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Perfect. Yeah, okay, so I think I'm just gonna come back up to the top so we can see the headings again. So I think a lot of our, there's some things with this identification, but it's still kind of pretty disparate, but when we start to engage and onboard, that seems to me like that was a crucible point for all of our discussions, that's where we have an opportunity to really shepherd these entrants and you want a high win rate, right? You want a high hit rate. You want them to be successful and you want them to solve the government's problem. That's the outcome we're all looking for. Okay. So it sounds like that's something, well, let's go back up here then to, we kind of jumped across on.
Can we get back to onboarding for 1 second? Because remember what we talked about with the fact that the new entrants and small and mid-sized businesses often are put in a position to be chasing contracts instead of being invited to be in a conversation to solve problems for the agencies. And that was that I guess waiting room structure. What happens in that waiting room? How can we incorporate that into the vendor management authority that GSA would have to do that type of education pre-contract development? Right. So to be as if once an agency decides that this is a problem that they have that they want to address, to give GSA the ability to access that and bring new entrants to the table to learn about the challenges that these agencies are having or opportunities, so they can be creative in designing the solution, not just chasing a contract after the solution has already been theorized and developed.
Yeah, those are great points, Nigel. And I would add, GSA has a couple of tools. I would suggest put them down here, which is the market research / RFI and the industry day. Those are two tools that they could really use exactly what you're talking about here. That they could leverage those tools now.
Would you put that under onboarding or engaging?
I think onboarding is one of those that could hit both.
Yeah, you're big
Honestly.
on hitting both, Boris, you know.
Yeah. Trying to keep myself, you know.
So again, leverage existing tools, right?
Yeah, and they've got some good ones. They got a whole team that does market research that has industry days. They do RFIs. They even do market research as a service for other agencies. They actually do that for other agencies too.
RFIs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I like your point, Nigel. I think this could be that this would be something GSA would be really open to, particularly with where you were going, Nigel.
And I know we're at the back end of this race, but you know what? Having someone from that group to actually speak to see the depths of what their market research and service is and the service that they provide would probably be helpful in filling some gaps.
Yeah, and they came to that one meeting, Stephanie, in February, so we can reach back to them. There was like 2 or 3 of them from that team, and we can definitely reach back and have more conversations.
The market research team?
Yeah.
MRAS.
Yeah, I think,
MRAS.
I think I really feel like that is an important cog in this whole thing. And I know they've been working on modernizing that, data-driven self-identification, data-driven research. But I don't know where they are with that, but I think that's an important component.
I totally agree. Yeah. Keith, before you go, is all of this making sense to you? Anything else you want to add? Just make sure before you drop out, you have any thoughts on this conversation?
No, not at all. I think it's kind of flowing right in line of what we've been discussing.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, I'm having a hard time keeping up on the chat. Notice of funding availability calendar. Okay. All right, thanks, Keith. Okay. Now, I wish this.
I've still got 10 more minutes, guys, before my 3 o'clock. Don't rush me off like that.
All right, let's get some bullets in here then, Keith. Let's go. All right. What about strengths for onboarding? You know, and kind of like when we do the write-up, I'd like to hit some strengths we identified through discovery. Then we can talk about the weaknesses and areas for improvement, and then the recommendations, right? I think
there is a portal to go for onboarding, right? I mean, there is a portal.
There are multiples. I think it's a strength and a weakness.
Yeah. No question. That's both
a strength and a weakness. Yeah.
But there is a portal, right? So you can tell people where to go.
Yeah, but again, there was so many, so multiple portals. So the reality is information is available. Information and resources are available. Right? But not necessarily easy to navigate from the viewpoint of the entrant. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And we talked to, we heard some of that with the battery company, and we heard some of that when we spoke to some of the small businesses we spoke to. Okay. So that's kind of an opportunity too. So this is when we say some of the weaknesses, too many points of entry, and what's the what we're trying to do? Basically, you can go down the wrong rabbit hole, right? Is there a more professional way to say that? Hello, are you guys still with me? Farad? Hello?
Yeah, the word navigation keeps coming to mind, but I don't want to overuse it.
No, go ahead, overuse it. We'll get this out.
It's just, so we need a Sherpa, right?
Yeah.
You need a Sherpa to help you navigate through these various different access points, but also the various technical assistance and all the things that are needed to get to that end goal of direct communication with the potential client.
Yeah, and I think it's like, if I could draw a circle, like when if you looked at this as like a process map, Nigel, now I know I'm speaking to you. This right here is, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Right there is where it's almost like a chain, right? And the chain is only as strong as the link, the weakest link. And if we look at this right here, this engage, onboard, well, no, I guess they're all important because the provide pathway to growth. Okay, never mind. I digress. Yeah, I like Sherpa a lot.
Kristen, I dropped in the chat a link to the Vendor Support Center, which is part of the Multiple Award Schedules program, and it does a beautiful job of helping onboard anybody, but that's one program in several. So that's what I'm saying, that they have solutions, but they're very specific to different programs. So
I'm sorry,
that's
where is that?
in the chat. So there's a program called the Vendor Support Center,
I don't
and that's
see
part of
it
the
here.
Multiple Award Schedules program. So it's an example of that Sherpa where
It's
they're
not
trying
there,
to
Boris.
Yeah, it's not there. Did you hit
It's not
enter?
Yeah, it hasn't come through.
Oh, it hasn't come through? Okay. Yeah, I put it in the chat.
No, Boris, you actually just gave it to me. It's a direct message. So you and I are keeping secrets. All right. So
Oh, let me type that again. So it is, yeah. I'm sorry about that. Let me put it there again.
So while you do that, Boris, given the and I don't want to use the catchphrase of the day, but given the emphasis the administration has on leveraging things like AI in order to improve its functionality, right? So everything from procurement process to actual service delivery and customer experience. So this sounds a lot like a data mining challenge, right? There are lots of access points, but how can this office of contractor relations, or whatever we're going to call it at GSA, can they be empowered somehow to leverage AI and search tools and these type of new innovations to strengthen the ability to identify which office is the right office and how to coordinate between the different moving parts in the different agencies?
Yeah.
Because that's like a challenge.gov, like, okay, well, who can come up with the best tool that's going to help GSA be that central body that can help drive this navigation and interoperability between the different agencies?
Nigel, I'm sitting there thinking how that would be just an incredible asset to the federal government, right?
Yeah.
A series of questions to help them navigate to, you know how you go through an app and then it says, hey, these are the 5 choices based on everything that you said. I'm not on a dating app, but because I'm married with 4 kids and I'm happy, I just want to make sure because that's recorded. But I think when you're talking around all the things you look, and they probably give you names that come out of it, right? Can imagine if they did that for the federal government. That would be powerful. Like, this is all about my business. This is what I do. And they say, okay, well, then you should be talking with the veterans, the SBTDCs, and the PTAC. And then they should be leading you here. You know what I mean? Y'all know what I'm.
Yeah, and I think what
What
Nigel's
we need
saying
is-
is, though, it's so vast and the government is so big and there's so many programs. Why not let technology help with this, saying,
Right. And then it can lead you to the 2 or
Yeah.
3, 4 places you need to go next. But that saves you time and energy and money, because then when you call those places, you can say, hey, I went through the navigation tool. It says that you would be my primary. Secondary would be MBDA, tertiary would be SBA. But at least it would say there's more of a connectivity between my business and your work.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love it. So between the Sherpa, you don't want to lose the human element, but you're going to make the Sherpa's job a lot easier if we can do a technology-driven kind of navigation tool.
And you don't-
A prioritizing navigation tool, like it
Right.
would give you prioritize.
And this allows us to do this in a smaller office. We don't need an office of 50 people to do it. Technology enhanced an office to essentially be a prompt engineer. All right. So how do you ask the right questions? How do you have the right prompts in order to develop the response necessary? Right. But that takes folks who have that connective tissue with the other agency to really understand what their needs are and what they're looking for in this climate change sustainability space.
Yeah, and it can be leveraged for any type of domain problem. The other thing is, I mean, actually this navigation office or relations office could also be shared service, you know, for other agencies. So for example, SBA and the Navigator program, there's no, it's not like it's, you know, the way it's done today is, oh, let me call so-and-so, let me call Boris and see if he knows somebody who knows. This would be just automating some of that knowledge. And it could be open to all these different folks that are trying to help entrants with the government. It doesn't need to necessarily reside solely, like it only be used by GSA. Right, because they put out publications and notifications, and you're expecting somebody to read that, remember it, and then when somebody comes in, to remember to tell them to go over there. It could be a resource tool, an open resource tool, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And then you have like the Sherpa layer of really center of excellence folks.
I wholeheartedly endorse that. I really believe in GSA being the centralized body, shared service provider, for lack of a better term, while the agencies are the specialized delivery folks. I think that's a great idea. And this is a way to have an access point to the government, right? We are talking about the general services, this is a general service that can help you get access to the more specialized tools and utilization and capabilities and objectives of the other agencies. I love it.
Yeah, and
Yes,
I
say
like
that
the
again.
comment of
I
prompt
need to get that,
engineering.
general services. I'm
And
gonna, this is,
I love the comment of prompt engineering because it allows GSA also to be a director, right? So when you say that's an easy way to understand this word. Like I try to use 3 words because again, I'm not as smart as Nigel, but I think if you can say prompt engineering as an aviation director, what do you call those people that tell you where to park the plane? But you know what I'm talking around, like leading.
They're traffic controller.
You're controlling the traffic of engaging people in business, right, with the government. That's power. That would be a powerful tool. I'm telling you right now, that's a powerful tool.
And I think this flows with the last phase, the growth, because one of the things we learned from fleet is that GSA, they buy vehicles, but most of the vehicles are purchased by other agencies. So the money is actually not at GSA oftentimes where you're actually acquiring. And that's the case with a lot of the goods and services, that the money is going to come from other agencies. And I think this links nicely with that idea of time to the other agencies, which is really where a lot of the times where the contracts are going to come from.
yeah, let's make sure I'm capturing this.
Which goes back to the reality that just because you get a multiple hour schedules contract, that doesn't mean you're going to make money until you start selling the product service to other agencies. That's where the action is going to be. And I think
Right.
that's a brilliant point, Nigel and Farad, that I think changes it's a game changer, depending on how you articulate it. I think it could be a game changer.
Yeah, I think this was another one too, Nigel, where I thought on pathway to growth, this is where we're not going to go deep into it, but there's definitely an opportunity for better metrics and transparency around that. You know, are these companies are they successful and are they growing in the federal supply marketplace? And I think that we won't get into it deeply, but I think that is a recommendation that we could put forward to take a closer look at how are we measuring success for this effort.
So just so you know, there are discussions ongoing on the Hill talking about measuring agency performance in performance.gov and so forth. Right now, it utilizes their small business utilization and then, you know, demographic utilization, of course. But the idea of giving points, credits towards that scorecard for utilization of new entrants. So this is very timely to include in a set of recommendations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So I think we captured that, and so I gotta move this down here. I got that in the wrong program. Okay, sorry, guys. I'm gonna make this a little smaller because it's,
All right, this is going in a great path. I need to drop out. Keep her going. Bye-bye.
make sure we get his chat.
All right.
Okay, awesome. Pathway, okay. So as you guys look at this, we kind of have this matrix, right? And you can kind of start to see that, and we won't call it a maturity model, Stephanie, but you kind of have a map in front of, GSA has a map. This kind of creates a map for them. And they could also choose to do deep dives on any of these channels if they wanted. And so that can be part of our recommendation, like on top of this, I think would be important is that GSA adopt a life cycle approach to evaluating and assessing the effectiveness of the programs to identify areas to improve and to solicit information from the business units. I hope somebody's typing. Solicit information from the business units, right? Because we learned just from one and we didn't get a chance to talk to everybody else. And to solicit information from small businesses. This is some of the gleamings that we got over 2 years worth of work is we need to go out and hear from those folks, their pain points. But if GSA owns and adopts this life cycle approach, I think there is ongoing value versus the specific recommendations we're gonna make within the matrix. Does that make sense?
Agreed.
Kind of start it with generally, like we learned that you really have to look at it from a life cycle perspective. We learned that blah, blah, blah. And so then within that life cycle, here is what our discovery and what we discovered as strengths, weaknesses, how we're making recommendations against those, where we didn't get to. I think that's fair enough too, to say we weren't able to dive deep enough into this. This might be an area GSA wants to take a closer look at. And then let's just go down, and I really want to capture, let's talk about, the dark side of the moon here. So what I really want us to capture the threat, meaning what is the downside of not taking a closer look at some of these things? So for example, on identifying, missing the right companies with the right solutions for these big hard problems. Context of this current role mandate is climate, supplier-based resiliency type thing. What else why is this important on identity? And we're just gonna go across all four.
Yeah, I think it's us recognizing that genius is in the small businesses. We realize that in everything that we've done in America is the genius is companies that start off small that become big. And you can pick that from Microsoft, Google, to all these names that we never knew of. They were not created 10 years ago. And so providing the government is the largest purchaser of everything in the world. Well, if we can help engage genius earlier, we'll get a chance to have that innovation. We can do the technology transfer or monetize or whatever quicker.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and we may miss, the thing I like to push too is like this climate focus that we have right now is really a time-bound problem. And so it kind of drives a sense of urgency on GSA and the government to be even more proactive, to get more engaged with the academic institutions, more engaged with the incubators, that type of thing.
So I have mentioned this report that came from the Undersecretary of Defense a couple of times. In 2021, I believe, they testified before Congress, making all of the arguments that I think we should be making in a climate and sustainability context. They were making it in the context of national defense, where they needed more companies competing, more companies available to them for all of the supplier diversity, but also regional resilience, the backup to the backup to the backup for your essential items. From a national security perspective, those same arguments can be made with regards to climate change and sustainability, where you need a backup, you need resilience throughout your supply chain, you need competition for everything that competition brings, whether it's innovation or lower cost. I think that those arguments can be very similar. So if we can pull directly from that report, and I'm happy to circulate that with the team.
Okay. Yeah, if you can pull that, and that'd be good. I think some other kind of homework assignments, for lack of a better word, is it would be, and I know there's only 3 of us on here, but Nigel, if you could, you have a really good sense of a lot of these different agencies, like, and organizations and SBA and stuff. If you could kind of spend some time and put a list of those things together that we could reference in this report. We don't need, it doesn't need to be exhaustive, but like, for example, SBA, there's a couple of programs, there's a couple of grant issuing programs in defense and energy, just so we can sprinkle that in. That would be helpful. And then I don't know, Farad, if you could do a little web diving search and see how many portals of entry you can find, so we could reference that in here. Because it's one thing to say there's a lot of ports of entry, but it's also great to identify a few.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And
Yes. So
that we can reference in the report.
Yep.
Nigel, can you do that too for the? Because you talk about them right
Yep.
off the top of your head. Navigator program, this, that, small, blah, 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 blah. And we're gonna have a hard time
Yep.
translating that.
Yes, I can do that. No problem. I'm on.
Okay, yeah, just type them up. Same thing, Farad, for you. Just type in the URLs, and then what I can take on is taking some of this and starting to craft the report. So again, it looks like we're gonna have an overarching recommendation around this life cycle approach, and then with specific recommendations, let's go through and make sure we've captured a couple of the specific recommendations. I'm going to start in the middle because I think this is the heart of the recommendation. And let's talk about what we actually want to call this. So really engage and onboard this vendor. Let's come up with something good here. We had a couple of different terms for it. Vendor Relations Management Office, Sherpa, right? We called it Sherpa Navigation. I just want to make sure I'm capturing it right. And I know we're working hard today. It's almost like a customer vendor success kind of supplier success, entrance success. Okay. Hello, you guys still there? Farad, Nigel, you still there?
Still here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here. You see me?
Yeah. Here's the two. GSA, build an authority to bring new entrants to table to better understand the challenge. It's kind of like it's a little bit like an accelerator, right? So who are you? How quickly can I match you to the right resources, people, contract information to bring your solution to bear for the government? Like, if there's no need, like if there's not a match, that's part of this is a match too. Like, if there's no need for that product, that's got to be part of the conversation as well, right? Okay. All right. What else do you guys want to cover today?
I think this is good.
All right.
I think it's complete.
Yeah. Okay. Stephanie, can you help me with a timeline? Like, do we have a suspense date that we're supposed to have a report into the full committee?
Absolutely. I can do that right now. Let me share my screen.
I'm afraid to see what it says.
You're good. You're in good standing. Let me share my screen. I have a lot of things up here.
Oh,
Can
somebody
you
else
see that?
in the chat. Did you put it in the chat?
No, I'm sharing my screen. If you
Oh.
drop yours,
No, I don't see it. Let me stop sharing. Hold
Oh,
on.
I see. You have to stop sharing, Kristen. 'cause
Yeah,
all-
hold on. You know I'm a control freak here. There we go. All right. All right. Oh, now we can see it. Oh, okay.
you can
Mark.
see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll just make sure this is the, so you're having your coordination meeting or email with committee members to outline the process. The expectation for that would be about the 17th. So I think we're looking at like the 8th of May, if you come down into the May, to compile your draft recommendations and presentations by May 8th.
Oh, we're so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she said we were in good standing. That's the first
Yeah.
time.
Wow, I feel better. And
I've
actually,
heard that.
I'm gonna slot some time this weekend to try and. All right, cool. All right.
Okay. I'll
Nigel,
make
yeah.
sure to put that in the chat as well.
Thank you. That's awesome. Okay. I will put a backwards planning schedule together. I think we're gonna need to meet again. Let's look at the calendar. And I know we still need to do public input and we'll do that, but let me get a calendar in front of me, guys. And I think we can just have a series of small admin meetings. We can do them in the evening if that's better. I don't know what's better for folks. Let's see. Okay, so today's the 16th. Yeah, all right. So this is what I'm gonna propose. I think I will work on the draft report and then share it out. Nigel, if you can work on your homework and Farad, your homework, and just send that to me as you get it. I will get a draft. It may be ugly, like it could still be an outline format out next week. And if everybody commits to iterating on it electronically, we can have a quick admin session, I think, on the 30th. Can we do that?
Is the 30th a good date for everyone?
Yeah, I said yes, and Nigel said yes too. You just couldn't hear us because we were both on mute.
Is
Oh,
3
okay.
o'clock better or 4 o'clock better?
In the afternoon of the 30th, so the earlier the better.
Somebody said the earlier the better.
Yeah, the earlier the better.
You're
Okay,
breaking
3
up,
o'clock,
Nigel.
okay? I've got a standing 2 o'clock at work that I can't move.
Yes, yes.
Okay, 3 o'clock on the 30th, and in between, you guys are gonna get me the information, and then I'm gonna get you a draft, and then you're gonna look at the draft, and we're all gonna provide input. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, I feel good. I think this was good. Now, as you're thinking about this, and I guess I'll try and clean this matrix up, Stephanie, and send it out to the full subcommittee to see if they have input. And there's a lot of great material in our archives that, I'm sure there's a lot of nuggets we're not capturing here, but we can be thinking about it. I'm sure more will come to mind.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And if you have any other activities or initiatives that you think that you may need, I would just go ahead and put that in the email to see if anybody is willing to step in and assist.
Okay.
That's a great idea, Stephanie. Because
Yeah.
Kim is still in our group, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
I see Kim wanting to make some participation.
Yeah, no, it'd be good. It would be good. So excellent. All right, let's take a mental break and let's see if there's, Stephanie, I don't know if we have anyone from the public on that would like to provide comment.
Yeah. It doesn't look like we have anyone on from the public right now who would like to provide comments, but we definitely just want to put that out there and just go ahead and state it in our public meeting that we did address it. From there, I'll turn it back over to Farad and yourself to let you continue with your meeting.
Okay. Farad, do you think
Do we come off of recording?
No, we're still recording. The meeting's still going on. So I think from a working session standpoint, I'm pretty happy with the progress we made today. And I think mentally, we might be better off adjourning and then working individually, and I'll get the message out to the full committee. And we'll reconvene at our admin meeting on the 30th, if that makes sense to you, Farad.
Yeah, I agree. If that's a motion, I second that motion.
Yeah, and Nigel, are you good with that? Seeing that you're the only other committee member on.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, well, I think this was pretty productive. I appreciate the
But
input.
wait, we have to thank Carrie and Joe as the interpreters. I think
Oh,
they've
yes.
been amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you.
There was a few words in there that they didn't seem to struggle with us, though, so I don't think we're as challenging as we might have thought.
Yeah, they were incredible.
Awesome. That's a good point, Fred. Thank you. No, and I want to thank, obviously, the whole GSA office for your support as we come down the home stretch here. So still have miles to go before we sleep, but we got good work going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd just like to share with you, if it seems like it's going to be a little bit too easy, I just want you to know that you're headed in the right direction as far as keeping in line with, the journey, because that's pretty much what the title of this one is. And I think the path that you're taking is right on point. And so I just wanted to leave you there. So without further ado, if there's no more comments, suggestions, or alibi, we will now adjourn this meeting. The next meeting will be held on May 22nd from 9 to 12:30 p.m. It will be a full committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.